It's right around 1:30 because we are joined by this person right here. That's Eric Goranson from Around the House Northwest. Eric, always good to have you here on the show, and I always feel like I learned something when you're on here.
Thanks, brother. I always like to be teaching something to people out there because there's so much to know about everything around your house.
And I love actually kind of just the fact that the shot I have behind us here is our Shriners cam. So just in case anybody's wondering, that's not smoke coming up, it's steam off of something on that building. I believe that's what that is. So, but it just adds a little, flair to the shot.
I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, and we are talking about radon today.
Yeah. And this is a big one. Radon, colorless, odorless, radioactive gas that is found in many of our homes in the Pacific Northwest. We're in many of the highest concentrations across the country are found right here in our backyard. And the only way you know if you've got it at home is if you can test it. And the crazy thing is you can have a high rating next door and 25 feet away at your house, you could have a low rating, and those things can change. So testing is the key to safety with this stuff.
Wow, that's crazy. I wonder why that is that we have the higher amounts, but just the fact that we do.
And the thing is I think it could be that we have seismic activity here. We've got a lot that's going on underground. And so anytime we've got that, there's cracks for it to come up through the soil and end up in your house. And what happens, people go, it's radon, who cares? Well, we have plenty of people in our area here in the Portland metro area that are in their 40s that never have smoked, never been in an industrial area where they've been breathing stuff in, but they've got super high radon in their house, and now they're dealing with stage 4 lung cancer. So this is a serious health issue for people out there. And I think that's one of the main reasons why, at least here in Oregon, Washington hasn't caught up to this yet. But if you sell and go through the purchase and sale agreement on a house, in Oregon, they force you to go through that radon test as part of that inspection process.
That's good. So at least you'd be aware going into it if you're going to be buying a house. But, so I guess where do we start with this? What should people know, I guess, to start off with?
Well, here's the thing. So there's a level that they say is what they call an action level, and that's 4 picocuries per liter is what that action level is. Well, here's the problem. The action level that they have at 4 was just something that 20 or 30 years ago, they said, we can abate this and fix a house down to 4. So we want to say, 4 is that level between safe and dangerous. The problem is you probably want to get it down to 2 or lower. You're never going to get 0 because you can be out hiking in the mountains, hiking down the street, and get it in the air around you. But you're just worried about trapping it inside your house for a long period of time where it doesn't get to dissipate in the air. It's trapped in there, which means you can get some really elevated levels.
Yikes. So, yeah, you could be just breathing that in and not even really knowing it.
And here's the bad part. You can go and say, hey, I've tested it. I'm good. If we have a 2.0 earthquake or a 3.0 earthquake or bigger, you should retest again because the ground's shaken up a little bit. So those paths could have changed from next door to your house. So it's really depending on, you just want to keep testing it. And there's so many good ways to do that now compared to having to have a company come over and sit there and test it. And you've got somebody over there for days on end with a machine trying to make sure that, you've got the right machine in there to do the testing. So technology is helping us now.
Yeah, that's so looking at it from that aspect, so you don't necessarily need to hire a crew to come out and go test it.
Well, here's what I would do. I would get you can spend $150 and get a really good, decent quality monitor. You get what you pay for these. If you get the $20 one off Amazon, sorry, I don't think I'd risk that working correctly. But if you spend $150 on one, you could put it in your house and it will tell you when it starts to get high and it'll give you a reading. So then if you go, hey, now wait a minute, this is getting up there a little high, then I'd call the professionals in to come take a test, see what's going on, and then you can worry about going through and making sure that you can put in a radon system in your house where they drill down below the foundation or put down, a plastic layer in the crawl space, and they put some fans and a tube outside to vent it so they can create a negative pressure and send that out of the house out into the air instead of into your house.
Nice. So a way to route around that and and keep that from happening. I have to admit, like, I don't know a whole lot about what I should be doing when it comes to radon. So that's why I love these segments, for everybody out there to know. So what's something else that's important that they should be doing?
If you're on well water, I would test that as well, because here's what can happen. You might not have, radon in your home, but if you're doing these tests, and that's the nice thing with that monitor, if you've got a well that has radon in it, this can happen. All of a sudden, you're good, but between 8 and 9 in the morning, when you take your shower to go to work or whatever time that is, your radon spikes. You're like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? And the problem is, if it's in the water and you're taking a hot shower, you have steam and you're just like hyper sticking that into your lungs because you're in a shower enclosed area. So that could be even worse for you health wise. So again, by monitoring that with something smart like that, you can really take a look at it. And you've just got a sensor in there that's probably going to tell you other stuff as well. So it's a great thing with that. But really, when it comes down to it, when you detect radon that you're like, hey, this is a little high for me, this is when you call in the pros that do radon, and they come in there and will take a look and tell you the best way to make sure to mitigate that radon so it's not coming up into your house. And so depending on the house construction, some new houses these days, you'll even see them put in there that they're radon ready. So they've got the layers underneath the ground. They've got a place for air movement. They've got a pipe coming up that you can hook on the fan. And so you can send that outside. So depending on what you're doing, if I was building a house these days, I'd make sure that they at least prep it for it. So if it came in and was an issue, then you'd know what, it'd be an easy one to do versus having to do all that other work.
All right. So yeah, that's definitely a good idea to think about that. And yeah, as you mentioned, technology too, helping things out and making things easier for us and just being prepared for that. So get one that's ready.
Yeah. I have friends that, I've got a friend that's a healthy home expert. She's got one that clips onto the end of her purse, and she'll go into buildings and it'll go off. And she's like, hey, you guys got a problem in here.
Wow.
So it's really
amazing. Well, anything else that you think people should be doing?
Yeah, just a little education. Test it. I wish Washington would do the testing as part of that real estate sale. So up there, they're probably a little worse off because it's just not as big a deal. You can contact the health department. They'll send you a free kit to test, but it's really not going to give you a lot of information. So really, I think the best thing is go out and get one of these testing, units that you can buy. You can jump online and pick one up, and that'll really do it. If you want to find out more information about all this, I do a full hour on my radio show and podcast this weekend on Saturday. So if you want to check that out, just check Around the House on your favorite podcast player. And I have one of the leading experts in the world on it, where we dive in deep and really dive into talking about radon.
There you go. So find out more information and get really into it. And that's an important thing to know about, as you mentioned.
It is.
Which that's interesting, Northwest. So anything else that you want to talk about on that, or should we talk about Around the House?
Let's talk about the show. We got a great show coming up this weekend. So let me tell you what, this was one of the funnest episodes. So we started out going up to Scappoose to this beautiful home that is built kind of like a cabin up there. And he has got this peekaboo view where he looks down this canyon and he looks into Portland, because basically he's looking down where the steam engines used to take the logs out of the Coast Range from Scappoose. So he's got this view looking down there. And then what did he do? He built a deck down from the house. He put a yurt down there, a wood-fired hot tub, and an outdoor shower, so you could be living down in the woods on your own property. And man, beautiful home, and it's completely can be off the grid, so it is self-sufficient.
I love that. That is awesome. That's like a dream situation.
Yeah. And then talking about yurts, we go down to Cottage Grove and take a look at Pacific Yurts. They're the original OG luxury yurt people from like 47 years ago that said, hey, these might be cool to camp in. And they have developed that over the years. So we go down and take a look at them, take a look at the different sizes. They had a 30-foot yurt with a skylight in it that opened up.
Wow.
Big dome skylight in the middle that was like 5 or 6 feet around. And so it had a fan that was suspended underneath it. So in the summertime, you could pull that hot air out. And we're talking hot tubs. We're installing some acoustic panel. We've got a lot of stuff going on in this episode.
So plenty of stuff for people to check out. Anything else that you want to tease for it, or just, you've already said a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty much. This is one of those episodes that, everyone I mean, we even go talk to some people, and since he had a hot tub there, we go take a look at the newest technology of hot tubs. One of those, you don't have to put the chlorine or bromine in. Basically, it's got its own water filtration system in it. So you're just checking your pH. So you're not going out there putting all the chemicals in it, and you only have to change the water like once a year. There's a lot of cool stuff that we explore in this episode of Around the House Northwest.
Well, what's the best place for people to watch it? How can they go about it?
Yeah, if you missed last week's episode, of course, that is going to air tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. on Friday on Fox 12 Plus. In this brand new episode we're talking about, that's 10 a.m. Fox 12 Plus on Saturday. And then, of course, it re-airs 6 o'clock on Sunday. But I know people might be watching this little game. If you don't want to watch the game and you're a Seahawks fan, you're like, I'm not watching that, catch Around the House Northwest at 6 o'clock on Fox 12 Plus.
There you go. Yeah. So make your choice. If you don't care who wins, if you want them both to lose, then there's an option.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, Eric, always good to have you on here. Thank you so much. And everybody watching, this is Fox 12 now, so we appreciate you joining us as well. Got more coming up throughout the afternoons, but we're going to take a break right now, and I'll talk to you soon. I'm